few years ago, Ryan Kaji was making his parents over $30 million before he even knew what money really meant. He was 4 years old. And now, fast forward about a decade later, that entire empire is starting to fall apart. We're talking about a failed movie that burned millions, legal scrutiny over how content was marketed to kids, and Ryan himself, now a teenager, clearly showing he's not into this anymore. And when you step back and look at everything his parents built around him, it stops looking like a success story and starts looking like something else entirely. So to understand how it all collapsed, you have to go back to how it started, because in the beginning, it didn't look bad at all. Back in 2015, Ryan is just a normal 3-year-old kid obsessed with YouTube. He's watching channels like EvanTube HD, seeing other kids open toys and have fun, and he tells his mom he wants to do the same thing. And honestly, that's not weird. A lot of kids say stuff like that. So his parents go with it. They take him to a store, let him pick out a toy, film him opening it, reacting to it. And at first, it's just that family content. No big plan, no massive strategy. Just a kid playing with toys. And for a while, nothing crazy happens. Then one video changes everything. A giant surprise egg filled with over 100 toy cars. Ryan opens it, and his reaction is exactly what you'd expect from a 3-year-old, pure excitement. No acting, no scripting, just real emotion. That video ends up getting over 1 billion views, not million, billion. And overnight, everything changes. They go from being a normal family in Texas to running one of the biggest kids' channels on the internet. And right there, that moment is where the real decision happens. Because every parent in that situation has a choice. Do you treat it like a lucky moment your kid got to enjoy? Or do you look at the numbers, realize what this could become, and turn it into something much bigger? Ryan's parents made that decision fast, and they went all in. Within months, the channel starts exploding. Brand deals come in, sponsors start reaching out, companies want partnerships, merchandise, licensing, and instead of slowing down, they scale it up. Both parents quit their jobs. They create a full production company, Sunlight Entertainment. At its peak, they have over 30 employees working on this. Think about that for a second. 30 people, salaries, equipment, production schedules, overhead, all of it relying on one thing to keep running: a child. And not just occasional content either. They were running over 10 channels at once, pumping out up to 25 videos every single week. Ryan's house gets transformed into a full-on set. Lights, cameras, props everywhere. Every room becomes part of production. At that point, it stops being a home. It becomes a workplace. In Ryan's life, it becomes content, breakfast, playtime, trips to the store, everything filmed, everything monetized, and that's where things start shifting, because it's no longer just a kid having fun, it's a system. By 2018, Ryan isn't just popular, he's the highest paid YouTuber in the world, not kid creator. The highest overall, $26 million in 1 year, at 7 years old. And it doesn't stop there. He holds that title again in 2019, again in 2020. 3 years straight. And the money isn't just coming from YouTube, it's everywhere. Toy lines in Walmart, deals with Colgate, mobile games, merchandise, even a Macy's Thanksgiving parade balloon. This is no longer a channel, it's a full-blown brand. But here's where it gets uncomfortable, because all that money, legally, none of it had to belong to Ryan. Unlike child actors in Hollywood, who've had protections since laws like the Coogan Act, child influencers had basically nothing. No guaranteed trust fund, no legal requirement to save earnings for the child, no independent oversight. Everything went to the parents. And as the business grew, the content changed too. What started as genuine toy reviews slowly turned into something else. Sponsored products started blending into videos. Ads weren't clearly labeled. Toys, snacks, games, everything placed directly into Ryan's hands. And the audience? Mostly kids between 2 and 6 years old. Kids who can't tell the difference between entertainment and advertising. When Ryan says he likes something, they believe him. And that's where the backlash started. Parents, critics, psychologists, people began calling it out. And eventually, it got big enough that regulators stepped in. In 2019, the FTC and New York Attorney General went after YouTube over child data collection and targeted ads. The result? A $170 million settlement, the biggest of its kind. And it forced major changes. Targeted ads on kids' content were restricted. Comments disabled. The algorithm stopped pushing kids' videos as aggressively. For Ryan's empire, this was devastating. Revenue dropped by about 70% almost overnight. Now imagine running a company with 30 employees and suddenly losing most of your income. What do? You push harder, more uploads, more deals, and more content. And that pressure, it lands right back on Ryan. Around this time, they rebrand the channel from Ryan Toys Review to Ryan's World. On the surface, it looks like growth. In reality, it's damage control, trying to make the brand feel less like advertising. But then comes the bigger problem. Ryan is growing up. The kids who watched him at 4 or 5, they're older now. They've moved on. Gaming, social media, different content. And new kids, they don't relate to a teenager pretending to be excited about toys. Even viewers start noticing. Comments change. People go from being jealous of his life to saying they're glad they didn't grow up like that. And the brand gets stuck because everything, merch, partnerships, identity, is built on one version of Ryan, a young, energetic kid, but that version doesn't exist anymore. And instead of adapting, they double down. More videos, recycled content, old streams replayed, trying to squeeze whatever's left from a shrinking audience. They experiment with new formats, gaming, challenges, but it doesn't hit the same. Views drop. By 2023, Ryan falls from number 1 to number 17 on YouTube's top earners list. And then comes the moment that really shows what's going on. A podcast appearance. Ryan is there to talk about his life, but his parents do most of the talking. And when he does speak, he looks at them first, like he's checking if it's okay. And when he's asked if he still enjoys it, his answer is careful. Too careful, because the reality is obvious. He's not enjoying it the same way anymore. He wants normal things, friends, games, just being a teenager. But the brand doesn't allow that. So instead of slowing down, they go bigger. A movie. A $10 million production meant to push Ryan's World into mainstream entertainment. And it completely flops. It makes around $600,000. Theaters report empty screenings, not low attendance, 0. The IMDb score drops to 1.8, and at that point, there's no denying it anymore. The audience is gone, the brand is fading, but instead of stopping, they shift focus. Ryan appears less, and suddenly his younger sisters take the spotlight. New content, new shows, new merchandise, same system, different kids, and people notice immediately. The reaction online is brutal, because it looks like a cycle. One child builds the empire, and when that slows down, the next one takes over. But at the same time, something important starts happening. New laws. States like Illinois, California, and Washington begin introducing protections for child influencers, requiring money earned from content to be set aside for the child. And while Ryan's name isn't in those laws, his story is part of why they exist, because this pattern isn't new. You've seen it before. Macaulay Culkin, the Olsen twins, kids who built massive careers early, and later had to deal with what that actually cost them. And Ryan, he's only 13 and he's still in it. But from what we can see now, things are changing. The family moved to Hawaii. He's in school, spending time on normal activities, sports, hobbies, and most importantly, he's talking about what he actually wants to do. Animation, working behind the camera, creating something on his own, which makes sense, because after spending your entire childhood being filmed, directed, and turned into a brand, of course you'd want control. Of course you'd want freedom. And that's where things stand right now. The empire that made hundreds of millions is losing relevance. The audience moved on, the formula stopped working, and Ryan himself is slowly stepping away from the version of life that built it all. So the real question is, was this just smart parenting? Taking advantage of an opportunity? Or was it something else entirely? And what happens next? Because if Ryan finally gets full control of his own life, this story might not be over. It might just be starting over in a completely different way.